Lord, this is the people that longs to see your face. When I was growing up, my mom would often share with me her active dreams of my Lola, or the word for grandmother in Tagalog. We would sit at the kitchen table and she would confide in me, saying things like, "Inay visited me again last night." She would describe the feel of my Lola's presence, the shock and the crescendo of that transforming into comfort, and the message she felt in her heart after that appearance. "Oh, okay, Mom," I would say flatly and all too quick to dismiss it and change the subject. But who could blame me? I was 15, I had my bangs curled, my braces were off. It was the early 2000s, and I just wanted to fit in with other suburban teenagers. But to be honest, I didn't know what to think. Did my grandma really appear? Or was my mom just so longing to see Lola again that she dreamt of her? On this side of life, what I do know is that I've experienced when friends and neighbors have shown up for each other in some of the healthiest forms of community I've experienced. Neighbors offering coffee, meals, and care packages after flooding, a sanctuary family celebrating their own home finally after having to stay in many places with a carne asada picnic, a deliberate caring for and with the people we honor with our attention. Just last month, my cousin and his wife in the Philippines buried their baby. It was heartbreaking. He and his wife had longed for a child for over 5 years. Their son, born premature, did not live for more than a few hours. Yet the baby was given a name, a prayer service, and a funeral, and the small village where my family is from came to its burial. There's this beautiful Filipino value called bayanihan, which roughly translates to community spirit. It comes from a tradition of literally picking up a bahay kubo, or a house made of indigenous materials, and moving it to a more secure location. I'm not sure if my cousin and his wife will dream of their precious baby visiting them, but I do know that showing up as a community in a time of distress moves something inside of us to a greater stability of heart. It makes space for other things to live besides sorrow. Our faith teaches us that the communion of saints actively intercedes for us, accompanying us, advocating for us, and showing up as good love does. Jesus described the saints among us as blessed in the Beatitudes. But so many of the Beatitudes are topsy-turvy, upside-down gospel values that might make no sense to us. The other day, my students played a game of Jeopardy about the political and historical context of Jesus. Some had clearly studied the chapter I'd assigned, while others made wild guesses about the Roman Empire. Later that night, as I reflected on how the game devolved, I realized the truth of the old teaching adage: if it hasn't been in the hands, it can't be in the brain. The students needed to engage with the content, relate to it, connect and incorporate their senses and movement, and put into practice some of the ideas and concepts for it to make sense to them, to be real and to be learned. So imagine then the good company that Jesus kept for him to be able to pronounce the Beatitudes with such incredible clarity. Jesus experienced the blessedness of people he described in the Beatitudes: the meek, the insulted, the mourning, the peacemakers, the merciful. He joined them at their parties, showed up for them in their times of sickness and death, used his voice and power to interrupt their systemic marginalization, benefited from their generosity, laughter, courage, and example. That kind of lived freedom of the Beatitudes and the Beatitudes people only makes sense from close up. Now that I'm older, I look more closely at the life of my Lola. Before she died, she had stayed with us in the United States to help my mother out, who was busy working. She cooked, did laundry, cleaned, and walked us to school in the snow. I was too cool for Grandma in middle school and walked a few paces ahead. Lola taught my sister and I how to jump rope, tying purple rope to a chain link fence and counting in Tagalog, "Isa, dalawa, tatlo." And I played until the other neighbors walked by and wrinkled their noses at our language, which was foreign to them. When my mother would leave for work, she'd admonish me not to watch TV and to get straight to my homework. I would wait for her car to slowly pull out of the driveway, glance at Lola, thinking that maybe she didn't understand my mom's instructions in English, and boldly disobeyed, clicking on the TV and watching after-school programming. I actively rejected my Lola's patient and generous love. A few years later, after countless stories of my mom's visions of Lola and other deceased family members, I had my own dream. In it, I was back in my childhood home in New York. The neighborhood looked the same with its beautiful, robust maple trees. In there, I encountered my Lola. I was shocked to see her, but could feel her presence, as real as it ever was. I spoke to her and apologized for all the times I tried to trick her as a little kid, too ashamed to appreciate her then. I thanked her for the way she fed us and nourished us, really, and helped us with total humility and selflessness. I told her I loved her directly. When I woke up, my pillow was wet with tear stains, but in my heart I felt both loved and forgiven. Lola had come close, and it's almost like I saw with new eyes how she showed up for us as kids. Lola was a Beatitudes person, and when she visited me as a late teen in my sleep, she provoked and awakened in me the memory of the person of who I longed to be, just as any good saint does. Her bayanihan of that old, unhealed part of my soul freed me in the ways that only love and forgiveness can. Lord, this is a people that longs to see your face. Yet so much gets in the way. Pride, ambition, success, centering my own well-being over others. Thank God for the ways that community shows up to love us when we are suffering or simply too small in our vision. Thank God for the communion of saints who are too steeped in God's love to be petty and small. They are blessed, drawing us into the improbable ways of the Beatitudes, urging us to choose in humility the ways of mercy, justice, righteousness, and peace. As we celebrate the solemnity of all saints, we publicly acknowledge what our heart already knows in its deepest center, that we believe in the promise of coming to life again, of a joyful reunion, of gathering for eternity in a place where we are inseparable from that big, freeing kind of beatitude love, of that love in God.